Hello folks, welcome to episode 9 of the Counting Sheep podcast. My name is Ruth and I will be your host, and I am coming from my farm in Vermont where I live with my husband, my dog Cooper, our cat, and 4 sheep and 10 chickens. I have fiber bearing sheep, and so a lot of what goes on around here is using their fiber as well as other fibers that I fancy and purchase for use. Welcome back if you're here as a subscriber, and if you're new, welcome. It's great to have you along. My podcast is mostly on crochet, some knitting. I do spin as well, and there are other fibery type crafts sprinkled in throughout. Also, some shenanigans maybe here and about in Vermont and elsewhere. So wherever I can get some footage to share, I'll share it with you. You may notice a atmospheric change here. I was hoping to once again film outside, but today has been quite rainy on and off. So I didn't want to take the risk with all the equipment and getting everything out and then getting wet. So we are inside today. So I want to get on and show you some things that I've been doing these past 2 weeks. I have some finished objects, which is very exciting. The first of which is my Airy Fairy cardigan, and I just want to show you, this is a pattern by Lilla Bjorn, and here is the actual picture of the cardigan. And it has like 3/4 sleeves to it, half sleeves. And if you recall last time, if you were here, I was kind of wondering whether I should go with the long sleeves. Well, it ended up I decided to go with how the pattern is written with the shorter sleeves. It looks really nice that way. So let me get this. It is still wet because I literally got it done yesterday. Put it in the soak. And I have been laying it out, but it is still quite wet because we have had a lot of humidity here in Vermont, and so things aren't drying quite as quickly as I would like them to. But anyway, here is my cardigan. Try to hold it up as best I can. So very proud of this one. I made this in Wooldreamers Saona yarn, which is a 50% wool, 50% cotton, and the colorway is Notes, which is this off-white color. I'll show you the back here. Oh, such a pretty pattern. Yeah. And then also, you know, the actual finishing on the sleeves and around the collar and the bottom is just unique. It's almost kind of like a picot edge, but it's not really, it's not a picot, a true picot. So, quite lovely. Very nice. I've had it on before I actually blocked it. And, oh, here's, I always add a label in. Mostly to show what's front and what's back on a garment, but this one it's totally obvious. But I've had labels made up several years ago with my farm name and like a logo, crafting with fiber on a hill in Vermont, and that is actually my barn, except my barn is brown. But I got these from a company that really took a lot of time and effort to get a good product. So and they said since the trees in the background were brown, the only way the barn was going to show up is if we did it a different color. But anyway, I digress. Those are my labels. And anyway, back to the Airy Fairy. I used a rather small hook, much smaller. Well, no, actually the same exact hook size as the pattern calls for. So I lied. It was a 2.25 millimeter crochet hook. I put wooden buttons on that I purchased from an Etsy seller. And I do have 2 complete balls of the yarn left over. So I might just make some socks, or even I might actually design some socks. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, and that was really fun. And actually it works up very quickly. You wouldn't think so with the amount of time it took me to do it, but I have other stuff that distracts me, so I probably could have gotten it done a lot faster than I had. But yeah, highly recommend Airy Fairy Cardigan, and that is by Lilla Bjorn Crochet. All right, so going on to crochet whips. If you recall, the last time I was working on this pattern. This is the Prairie bag pattern, and this is from Natalia Kononova, and she goes by the trade name of Outstanding Crochet. And this is quite a pattern. I'm so enjoying it, and it's quite the obsession of mine. And I am doing mine in Scheepjes Catona cotton yarn, which comes in quite a few colors, and I wanted to do mine in blue and yellow because I like the contrast. So let me show you how far I've gotten here. So I think the last time I was somewhere down in here, but this is actually going to be the last leaf up here before the top edging and then the straps for the bag. Quite an obsession. I am using a 3mm hook, and like I said, the Catona, which is Scheepjes 100% cotton. This is color number 280 and color number 201. So the blue and the yellow. But like I said, this comes in quite a few colors, quite the rainbow. And this is hiding out. I show this with some reservation, but I have to share this with you because it just checks a lot of boxes in my maker's heart. I bought this from someone who just makes bags and sells them on her own, but I loved how she embellished this one with the crocheted doilies, the technique there. So cool. And then all the hand stitching around. She even put a little pocket inside. Nice lined bag. You know, perfect for this project with the small balls of yarn, or it could be for a, you know, like a sock project, you know. But, and I love the handles too. The handles are so sturdy. So it all fits very nicely in the bag here. So really enjoying using that. It's going to become a favorite, I can tell. So, all right, so moving on. That was a whip. I'm hoping to get that done by the next time we meet. So fingers crossed. I think I will, actually. It depends on how I want to finish it. She has in the pattern, to her credit, a lot of good finishing details. So if you want to line the bag, she shows you how to do that. She also shows you how to reinforce the handles so that they don't stretch out. So hoping to use most of those ideas in that project. So, all right, so moving on, we've had a finished object, a whip, and now something that I showed last time that I haven't started yet, but this is a future project. And let me see if I can find it. Oh, these are the Filix mitts. Let me see if I can find a good picture. I actually got this out of the latest Pom Pom Crochet Anthology magazine, but it was published before in one of their other magazines. So anyway, this is one angle of these mitts. It's called the Filix mitts. And if you recall, I was struggling a little bit with the yarn weight, because it's kind of an in-between kind of yarn. It's not a true lace weight and it's not a true fingering weight. It's somewhere in between. I guess they would call that a light fingering. And they use a 50% silk, 50% merino. But what I thought I would do is use a lace weight yarn, and this one is 80% Corriedale and Polworth and 20% nylon. And I did manage to wind this up. This is a colorway called Best Silk Lingerie. Probably getting a little blown out there, but it's quite a pastel-y type of color. And then I was kind of struggling about, I wanted to put a strand of mohair with it, work a strand of mohair into it, with it. And I had, if you recall, I had a pink and this color. And the decision has kind of been made for me because I have a good amount of this. I have more than enough to finish the mitts, but the pink one I didn't have quite enough yardage, so I hadn't fully realized that the last time. And so it always goes to show you should read the pattern. And so I am going to hold these two together and hopefully get a light fingering weight out of the two of them and see how that works up. I think it will be fine. I think it will be fine. So so that's that. Like I said, have not started that yet. It calls for a rather small crochet hook, as you can imagine. They are oh yeah, there's this thing about requiring, it requires a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. But if you have trouble finding it, they said either go with a 2.25, which is a USB, or a 2.75, which is a USC hook. So I will probably start off with the C hook and see where I go with that, the higher one. And yeah, so this should be a quick project, although with the small yarn and the small hook, that remains to be seen. So, but like I said, I like to see how that comes out. You know, it's an interesting color combo for me. All right, so moving on to knitting, I am happy to say that I have another finished object, if I can remember where I put it. I was making a Joji pattern called the Liquorice Vest for my mom. Made one for myself already from my hand spun from one of my sheep in a very variegated gray. And this is very textured. It's the same on the front and the back. And then this is also my hand spun from my BFL sheep. And this one is done. So, very glorious pattern. I normally don't, I don't normally do not make patterns twice, but this one is worth it. Totally, see, that's the back. Totally engaging pattern without being overly fussy. This is a kind of a stretchy bind off on the bottom and on the arm treatments, as well as the neck ribbing. And then I put one of my tags in again. But like I said, this is for my mom, and it's pretty obvious what's front and back here. You get some baubles in there, some cables, some lace, plus the construction is wonderful as well. It's top down, so you can try it on as you go. But yeah, lovely. I think she's gonna like it. She might be coming for a visit at the end of this month, so hopefully that happens and we can gift her this from the farm. I love giving gifts from the farm, as you can imagine. A lot of fun for me to present things that my sheep have produced, so to speak, with a little help. We help together, right? So, so that's my Liquorice Vest and words, Joji Locatelli. And I think I used a number 11 needle on that. I went and measured it finally again, and I was using one of those cubics needles, so it's kind of hard to get a measurement on one of those, and also the size on the wooden part had rubbed off, so I had no idea what I was using. All I knew was that I had used it for my previous licorice. Yeah, but it came out just fine, and it looks great, so I'm sure it's going to fit her, and I know she's going to love it. So yay! Another FO. I love it when they're finished, obviously, but I'm more in love with the process, as you can imagine. So when things are done, I'm always looking ahead. I mean, even when things aren't done, I'm looking ahead. So I had put my pressed flowers cardigan, which I had mentioned several podcasts ago. I had said I was putting it kind of away until the fall, and so now the fall is kind of coming, and I've got it out again. So let me show you. Sorry about the bending down. I'd say a lot of there's some things on the floor, some things on a chair. All right. So let me show you this. This, first of all, is the picture of the pressed flowers cardigan. Very pretty. Very popular too. There's a pressed flowers hat, I believe. There's a shawl. There's a pullover. And so this one is the cardigan. And I am doing mine in my farm yarn. This is from one of my sheep. I believe it's Fergus, who's no longer with us, but he was one of my weathered rams. He was a Shetland, pure Shetland. So beautiful chocolate color there. And then I'm also doing the, what? The flowers are going to be in this from Feederbrook Farm, and you can see the label's pretty beat up here. This is called their Entropy DK, and it's 100% blue-faced luster wool. Yeah. So, quite gorgeous. And this is the first ball. Things are getting tangled down here. It's no wonder. All right, so let me show you the actual cardigan. Real life here, getting tangled up in the yarn, right? So here is, you do it all in one piece from the bottom up. So probably not much progress since the last time I showed you. I'm still trying to get back on the wagon with this one, and also trying to make some decisions about the skeins and the colors. So I may just end up doing the entire back first, because I'm getting to the point where we're going to split for the fronts and backs, and I might just continue with this skein up the back, so there's some continuity there with the color changing. And then I will probably do the fronts with a steek, believe it or not. So they are not connected now, but they probably will be connected, and that will guarantee me that you have some continuity going back and forth on the fronts. So we'll see. And then the sleeves are another story and when I get to that. So but yeah, this is super fun. This is mosaic knitting. You're only using one color at a time, and super squishy too. Nice and squishy, nice and warm. Smells like my sheep. I love it. For those of you who like to sniff yarn, I've got your number here. So this is always, it kind of maintains its nice earthy smell. I like to call it earthy. So all right, so that's pressed flowers cardigan, and I forgot to tell you that that was by Savory Knitting. And popular pattern, popular in that, oh yeah, Amy Christoffers. I couldn't remember her name, but that's who Savory Knitting is. So, and pretty easy pattern, nice charts going along with it as well. So, very well written. Alrighty, so moving on. Another whip. I actually got this one started. I talked about it last time about my wanting to make a pair of mittens with a sunflower motif. And I found this pattern. This is by one of our local designers. She is from Maine. Her name is Mary Jane Mucklestone. And this is her sunflower mitts pattern. This is now available as a single pattern. It was part of a collection called Maine Knits, of all Maine designs, Maine designers' designs. And I decided to go with this brown for my main color. I have needles sticking everywhere. That's the brown there. It's got a yarn cozy on it, keep it nice and neat. This is from Shepherd's Wool in Michigan, from Stonehenge Fiber Mill. Very nice yarn. It's very soft. And then this one is from Abstract Fiber and Yarn. This is called Warm. That's the colorway. And it is 100% superwash merino. This is 100% wool. Fine wool, they call this. So, in the brown colorway. I haven't gotten too far. I started the cuff and some of the color work. So now I have to tell you, I'm working this kind of inside out. I like to work my color jogs around the outside, and that way my color work doesn't get too tight and draw it in too much. So the circumference around the outside is obviously larger than the circumference on the inside. So that gives me a little bit more material between the stitches. But yeah, I like it so far. You can't see much, obviously, because I just got started, but another set of mittens on the way for me, because I have a tendency to lose mittens. And I will try to figure out a system so I don't lose these, because you put a lot of time and love into your makes. All right, so those once again are the sunflower mittens. I did go down a needle size. I tend to be a very loose knitter. This calls for size 5 and size 7 double points, and I went down to a size 4 for the cuff, and I'm at size 6 for the hand part. All right, fun. So that is the sunflower mitts. I adore sunflowers, so this is a special project for me. All right, so that's it for the knitting and the crochet. I just wanted to share very briefly. I was watching Allie from Little Drops of Wonderful podcast. She's wonderful. She does crocheting and knitting, and now she's getting into spinning. She was using a drop spindle for a while, and then she went to one of the sheep shows in Britain and came back with a Nano. And so I related with her so well on this, because over the time that we were in the pandemic, I succumbed and bought a Nano. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is an electric spinner. So a spinner that runs on electricity, so there's no treadling involved. And so all you get to do is just draw the fiber out. And I wanted to just show you mine real quick. This is the Nano. And this, it has what I'm currently spinning now. This is fiber from Dirty Girl Yarns in kind of this swampy green colorway. And I find with the Nano that I can get a really thin spin. I can get thin spinning on my other wheels, my Louette and my Lendrum, but I feel like this is even thinner. And it might be because there's just a real even spin, because you take one element or one variable out of the equation, and then all you have to do is draw back. What's great about this little spinner is that you can hook it up in the car. So as a passenger, I don't recommend that you do this while you're driving, but as a passenger you can spin away while somebody else does the driving, and it's wonderful. There's also a battery that you can hook into, and a little storage. There's a storage compartment that attaches to the bottom that the battery goes into, so that it's all contained in one. It's great, and so you can spin with a battery as well. You don't necessarily have to plug into anything. You just have to be able to recharge your batteries. So these are manufactured by a local guy here in Massachusetts. The business name is Dreaming Robots, and his name is Maurice Rebel, and he is at most of the New England shows, and I believe he also does Rhinebeck, so you have to look out for him. But I was able to get this at a sale price during the pandemic, because he was kind of upping the game for the model that came after this. But there's also a larger one that he makes. I think it's called the E-Wheel 6. Don't quote me on that. If I can find the name of that, I'll put it down here. But it's larger, it's got bigger bobbins, so you can spin longer. But anyway, I thought I'd share that with you, a different way to spin. And I find it interesting. My path in spinning, my journey through spinning has been a long one, because I've been doing it for a long time. But for the longest time, I kind of eschewed the electric spinners because I wanted to be a quote-unquote purist. But I find this thing incredibly fun and portable. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like never say never. You know, try it out, see how you like it, and then go from there. So I thought I'd share that with you. A slurp of my coffee here. So that's what's going on in spinning. And then I just wanted to mention some shenanigans. Last weekend was Labor Day weekend here in the U.S., and we have a lot of celebrations, parades, and that sort of thing going on then. I participated in two fundraising events. One for the Lions, which is a service organization that I belong to, and that's an international type of organization. And the other one was for the library, the local library where I volunteer. And it just involved some baking and standing at the bake sale, which was all by donation, so we don't ask for a specific amount of money. We just ask people to make a donation. So that was a lot of fun. We had good weather for that. So that was those two different ones. And then the most exciting thing that happened last weekend, it was actually last Friday, is we got our hay in. And we don't do hay ourselves. Hay is a big operation, and it's been especially hard this summer with all the rain we've had, because when you are haying a field, meaning cutting it down and baling up the hay, you really need a good stretch of dry weather. The hay really should not get wet, and if it does, it has a tendency to mold, and it's not good for the sheep. I actually buy my hay from a farmer, and I have been for several years now, and so it was nice that he said, yeah, I'll be up, I'll take care of you, Ruth. And there's kind of like this taking care of each other in Vermont, which is nice, because as you can imagine, I have a small operation here. I only have 4 animals. But because I have such a small operation, you tend to get attached to the animals, and you want them to live and survive and thrive. And then with the summer that we've had with all the rain, it really it makes you worry whether they were going to have enough food to get through the winter. And the gentleman that I buy my hay from basically said to me, you know, you've taken care of me for the past several years. I'm now going to take care of you. And so he put me on priority. We buy about 100 bales, and we pay good prices for them. I feel the prices are fair, especially since there is a lot of equipment and cost that goes into haying. You would never think so, but there is the actual cutting, so the tractor and the mower, and then they do a thing called tedding, which is it actually fluffs up the hay, this actual tedder, and helps it to dry faster and more evenly. There's a rake, so that's already 5 pieces of equipment, and then there's the baler, and then the transport, you know, the actual trucks and trailers to transport the hay. So there's a lot that goes into it, a lot that can go wrong, a lot that can break down, and the equipment is not cheap. So I feel that in giving my money for the bales of hay, it's good money. It's money well spent. So that's what I'm trying to say. What are you trying to say, Ruth? So anyway, yeah, and so that warms my heart when I can walk into our barn and there's a sweet, sweet smell to hay, freshly baled, and also warms my heart that my sheep will have another winter of really good hay to eat. All right. So then on that note, I am going to sign off. My husband and I and Cooper, our dog, are going on a couple days away, little side trip, just to get away for a few days. And I will try to get some footage of that area that we're going to, very pretty area up here, and in the northern regions. So stay tuned for the next time. Please like the video if you like my content. Subscribe, and also please comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I usually get back to people pretty quickly. And love hearing from you and seeing what you're making. So until the next time, take care of yourselves, keep crafting, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.